The first question is question number 23 today. It says, what change needs to be made in sentence 8? So you should underline change in sentence 8. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. When we look at sentence 8, we said that this is the wrong your. This is like something belongs to you. Your house, your car, your coat. In this case, it's the wrong homophone, the wrong word. It should be Y-O-U apostrophe R-E because that's the contraction for you are. Is that an answer choice? Yes, it is. So you should put a maybe baby or a dot for possibility on B. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Now here's what we've been talking about all week. If you were just a knucklehead, you would just put that and go on. But knuckleheads don't get mastered on the STAR test. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to plug in all your other answer choices to just double check and make sure that this is the best answer choice. So the first one says delete the quotation mark at the beginning of the sentence. You're holding up the line. Move, she said, you're holding up the line. Well, that is what she actually said. You're holding up the line. So since that's what she actually said, it should have quotation marks around it. And when you have quotation marks, you have them at the beginning and the ending. So in this case, delete the quotation marks at the beginning of the sentence. You could put QM for quotation marks are needed. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Change the period to a comma. Well, let's look. You're holding up the line. And this is a new sentence. Can you end a sentence with a comma? Heavens no. So in this one, you could say period needed. You could say end of sentence. You could say no comma needed. Any of that I would take. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. No change needs to be made. Well, that's not true because we found that a change did need to be made. So you can blip out the no, so it should say change needs to be made. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. So my only correct answer on that is B. If you picked B as your correct answer and you fixed it that way in your story, give yourself a tally mark. The next one. What change should be made in sentence 15? Change in sentence 15. If you underline those keywords, give yourself a tally mark. In sentence 15, we said that balance was misspelled. My 6 legs and clawed feet gave me great balance. So we said balance was misspelled. Is that an answer choice? Yes. So you should have put a dot for possibility or a maybe baby on J. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Insert a comma after legs. Let's look. Oh, look, they want to know, do we need to insert a comma before the fanboys word? Well, let's look. That's easy to look at. So right here's a fanboys word. If we insert a comma, my 6 legs. Is that a complete sentence? Nope. Clawed feet gave me a great balance. Nope. So it's not complete on the right and it's not complete on the left. So it does not need a comma and a fanboys. It's not complete on the left, not complete on the right. It does not need a fanboys word and a comma to make it right. So on this one you could say no comma needed. Change gave to given. Well, given is the past tense. Let's see what all the other verbs are around this. I soon caught up. My antennas shook. I was thinking. All of that is present tense. My antennas shook. I soon actually caught up. It's past tense. It's past tense. I felt. All those are past tense. So my 6 legs and clawed feet gave me. That's past tense. Given me, let's see if that would make sense. My 6 legs and clawed feet given me great balance or gave me great balance? My feet gave me great balance. Gave is the word that makes sense. So given is another tense of gave. I gave you a birthday party. I've given you a birthday party every year. But given doesn't make sense. So on this one you could say wrong word or wrong tense. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Change great to great. This is like, yay, that's great. This is like great, like we graded the road to give us traction. So let's look at this. My 6 legs and clawed feet gave me great balance, as in good balance, better than good balance. This is the right grade. So this is a homophone, but this one is wrong word. You could also put misspelled. Some people might put misspelled, but actually this great is a word. It's just not spelled correctly for this word. So you can eliminate that. My only correct answer is J. If you pick J as your answer and you fixed it that way in your story, give yourself a tally mark. What is the correct way to write sentence 17? Correct way, write sentence 17. If you underline those keywords, give yourself a tally mark. Here's our tricky word, or not our tricky word, but our clue word. Write, rewrite, combine, revise, oftentimes. And when it says, was even thinking, was even thinking, was even thinking, all of those look a lot the same. So we're going to pick Chinese. All this means is instead of having to write out beside it wrong word or wrong tense or off topic, instead we're going to pick the answer that we think is correct, and we are going to make all the other answer choices look like it. So let's do that. This one, I can tell you right now, it starts with a fanboys word, and that's what we said was originally wrong with it. So automatically, I don't think that that's a good choice. And was even thinking about running. That's not a complete sentence. Up the next stalk of grass. That's not a complete sentence. So that's just a train wreck all the way around. The next one said, I was even thinking about running up the next stalk. That might be a dot for possibility. Who or what is it about? I, what was I doing? Thinking about running up the next stalk. So it would work. Stalk of grass. That one might work. Let's look, so we can put a maybe baby on that. If you put a maybe baby on that, give yourself a tally mark. I was even thinking about running. Let's look at this comma. This is going to be the fanboys rule to see what we need to do. I was even thinking about running. Is that a complete sentence, or what is it about? I, what was I doing? Thinking about running. So that's a complete sentence. Let's look at this side. I would go up the next stalk of grass. That's a complete sentence. It's complete on the left, complete on the right. It needs both a comma and a fanboys word to make it right, and it's missing a fanboys word, so that would not be a good choice. So now let's look at our Chinese to make these other two answer choices look like the one that we think it is, which we think it's B. So let's look at that. Oh, we don't need and. We can use a caret and insert I. I was even thinking about running. We don't need the period. Lowercase up the next stalk of grass. So that would fix it by blooping out the fanboys word, inserting I, blooping out the comma, and lowercasing up. That would make this one look just like this one. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. The next one, I was even thinking about running. Oh, you don't need the comma. You don't need I would go. I was even thinking about running up the next stalk of grass. So by blooping out the comma and the I would go, that would make this one look just like this one. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Sentence 17 is written correctly in the story. Well, we looked over here and we said it's not written correctly because it starts with a fanboys word. So on this one, sentence 17 is written correctly in the story. All you have to do is insert a not. Sentence 17 is not written correctly, so that can't be our right answer. Our only correct answer in that is B. And that's how we fixed it in the story, is we blooped out and inserted I. So if you pick B as your correct answer and you fixed it that way in your story, give yourself a tally mark. So question 26. We're going to finish these right quick. How should sentence 21 be changed? Sentence 21 changed. Well, when we look at sentence 21, we said that saw should have been changed to seen. And that is an answer choice. So you're going to put a dot for possibility. or a maybe baby on J. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Change to C to there was. Let's see what that does. I turned my head to see one of the biggest, meanest looking ants I had ever saw. Well, if you changed to C.
Okay, I found something on the web for one of the biggest files.
Oh my word, I'm set off my phone. Siri started talking to me over here. I turned my head, and then they want us to change to C to there was. There was one of the biggest, meanest, oh, I'm not even showing you. I turned my head, then they want me to bloop out to C and insert there was. There was one of the biggest, meanest looking ants I'd ever seen. That almost sounds like it would work. But when you do that, there was, it would make it like right here's the middle of the sentence. It would say, I turned my head. That's complete. Then it would say, there was one of the biggest, meanest looking ants I'd ever seen. So it would make it complete on this side. It would make it complete on the left, complete on the right. And if you have two sentences, complete on the left, complete on the right, it would need a comma and a fanboys to make it right. So even though you're blooping out to C, you can't glue two complete sentences together with nothing. They would, if you're going to change it to there was, you would have to insert a comma and a fanboys word. So that just creates a whole nother problem to do that. So in this case, change to C to there was, you could just say not needed. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Change biggest to biggest. Well, that's not how it needs to be. That's misspelled. It's B-I-G-G-E-S-T. I don't even have to go plug that in. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Change meanest looking to most meanest looking. We've talked about this before, but anytime you have a word that ends in ER or EST, it's either one or the other. So you don't say, I was more bigger than my brother. You don't say more and ER. You don't say most and EST. It's one of the other. So it does make sense to say meanest looking, but you can't put both, most meanest looking. So in this case, all you would do is bloop out the most, or you could again say most not needed. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Change saw to seen. Well, that's the only one that would even halfway make sense. So we did that in our story. So if you pick J as your correct answer and you fixed it that way in your story, give yourself a tally mark. Two more left. What change needs to be made in sentence 24? Change in sentence 24. If you underline those keywords, give yourself a tally mark. When we look over here at sentence 24, we said that you always have to capitalize the first letter of a quote. If it's at the first of the sentence, it would be capitalized anyway because it's the first of a sentence. But if it's like this and it starts in the middle of the sentence, you always have to capitalize the first word of the quote. So in this case, you should have put a dot for possibility or a maybe baby on B. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Delete the comma after scolded. This again goes back to our comma rules that you're always going to separate the quote from the rest of the sentence with a comma. So that comma is needed. So all you could say on that is comma needed. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Change theirs, which is a contraction for there is, to theirs, which that car was theirs. The car that belongs to them, it was theirs. Well, let's see which one it should be. If it works as a contraction, then it would work, then it's right. So there is no time for messing around. There is would work. If it was theirs, so theirs, no belongs to theirs. It wouldn't show ownership if it was theirs. Theirs, T-H-E-I-R-S, is something belongs to them. It's theirs. So in this case, there is makes sense, and so you could say that. You could put wrong word. You could also write out beside it, there is makes sense. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. No change needs to be made in sentence 24. A change needs to be made, so you could bloop out no. So it should just be the only correct answer on that is B. If you pick B as your correct answer and you fixed it that way in your story, give yourself a tally mark. Bam, down to the last one. Here we go. What is the correct way to write sentence 34? Correct way, write sentence 34. When we look over at sentence 34, this is the one that I gave a pretty lengthy explanation to. In this case, it's two complete sentences glued together with nothing, or with a comma. So there's several different ways you can fix it. You can insert a fanboy's word, so it would have a comma and a fanboy's word. That would work. You could insert an awubis word, but if it's the awubis word is in the middle, no comma is needed. If neither one of those are an option, you could just put a big old fat period right there and make this a complete sentence and this a complete sentence. So we're going to have to look at our answer choices to see what it is. Here's one of those magic words again that if it says write, rewrite, combine, we're going to use Chinese. That just means we're going to use our proofreading marks to prove our right answer is right. So on these kind of questions, you shouldn't have wrong word, wrong tense, off topic. None of that should be on here. So let's look at that. Just read your answer choices and see which one is correct. You also know it's Chinese because they all start the same. I would try my hardest. I would try my hardest. I would try my hardest. I would try my... So if you're not looking at these very, very closely, you might get confused and think that they were exactly the same. So let's just read it. F said, I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food because I wanted to become the very best worker ant that our colony had ever had. Well, this is sounding pretty good, and it has an awubis word in the middle. The awubis word in the middle says it's in the middle, no commas needed. That's looking good. But when you get down here, there's a random period in capital letter. That our colony had ever seen, that's not a complete sentence. That's called pulling a pawpaw. Remember the period in random capital letter? We call that pulling a pawpaw. So if you put a random period in capital letter, we know that that can't be the right choice. So we're just going to put an X. We don't think that's a good one. G said, I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food because, okay, there's an awubis word again, no comma, we're looking good. I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food because I wanted to become, random period, capital letter, the very best worker ant our colony had ever had. Well, again, random period, capital letter, pull the pawpaw, that wouldn't work. X. Let's try this. I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food. Okay, that sounds all right. Wanting to become the very best worker ant our colony had ever had. Wanting to become the very best worker ant our colony had ever had, that is not a complete sentence. So that wouldn't be a good choice. So we've said these are all bad choices. I hope to goodness this last one is a good choice. Let's look. I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food. That's a complete sentence. I wanted to become the very best worker ant our colony had ever had. That's a complete sentence. Now when it's complete on the left, complete on the right, you need both a comma and a fanboy to make it right. This doesn't have a comma and a fanboy. It doesn't have an awubis word either. But what it has is a period. And so this is a complete sentence, starts with a capital letter, ends with a period. And this is a complete sentence, starts with a capital letter and ends with a period. That makes that the only grammatically correct answer choice. So you should put a dot for possibility on J. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Now, for the sake of no one saying, Miss Walls, these are all exactly the same, we're going to play the matching game and we're going to see what's different about them. I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food, period. Put a big old fat period right there. Then bloop out because I wanted to become the very best worker ant our colony had ever had. So all you had to do on that was insert the period and bloop out the awubis word, and that would make this one match this one. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. Let's try the next one. I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food, period. Bloop out because I wanted to become, bloop out the period in lowercase the, I wanted to become the very best worker ant our colony had ever had. So I had to insert a period, bloop out the awubis, bloop out the period in lowercase the. If you did that, give yourself a tally mark. On this one, I would try my hardest to gather plenty of food. That part is okay, but then you're going to have to insert with a caret, I, and you're going to have to lowercase want, and it's not wanting, it's wanted, so I'm going to bloop out the ing and insert ed. I wanted to become the very best worker ant our colony had ever had. So, by inserting the I, lowercasing want, and changing the ing to ed, that would make this answer choice look just like this. You can eliminate it. So my only correct answer on that is J. If you pick J as your correct answer, then you can come back over here and you can erase our other options and you can just say, nope, I gotta bleep out that comma and insert a period. So that would be proving your answer by saying this is how it is, this is the answer choice I picked. So if you pick J as your correct answer and you fixed it that way in your story, give yourself a tally mark. You guys are doing awesome. I can't wait to see strategies.